Today, every day, small cap investors visit Agoracom knowing this is the day to discover the world's next great company, to have their dreams come true. That's why I take to the open road, to find them, to tell their stories, to engage them, to bring them to life, because they want to connect with you from your office, your phone, your home, anywhere. Agoracom, find your dream.
Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives right after important news. With us today, again, I'm happy to have Bernard Tourillon. He's Chairman CEO of HPQ Silicon Resources. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol HPQ, and for our friends in Germany on Frankfurt under UGE. Now, for those of you who are new to the story, the company is planning to become a vertically integrated and diversified producer of solar-grade silicon metal and a solar cell producer. More than just lip service, their partners include Pyrogenesis, which is a global leader in plasma torch technologies, and Apollon Solar, one of the world's leaders in renewable energy. The company's process, they believe, will reduce capital costs and operating costs by as much as 90%, creating significant cost advantages that have never before been seen in the industry. More importantly, from an environmental point of view, a greatly decreased carbon footprint, energy footprint, and the elimination of some toxic chemicals that are used in the manufacturing process right now. Here to talk to us about the latest press release is Bernard. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, George.
All right, latest press release. Guys, I'm going to read the headline here because it's an intricate one. HPQ signs MOU, that's a memorandum of understanding, with a big data enterprise blockchain solution developer to develop a carbon credit marketplace for solar carbon credits generated by the PureVap process. Now, Bernard, that doesn't sound like a Me Too blockchain press release, and we're seeing a lot of those out there. Before we get into some details, give us a layman's overview of what your blockchain solutions will accomplish.
Well, really, our blockchain solution is related to resolving something that's critical, mission critical for what we're doing. Right? It's really related to our process, what we're doing. When you went into the introduction, you said, you know, we're going to cut capex costs by 90%. Well, you know, at the minimum, we will cut the CO2 emissions by at least 75% compared to our processes. So in layman terms, the blockchain is just a way for us to clearly differentiate ourselves from everybody else in the solar cell or the process that we are to do solar cells, okay? It's going to give our processes, our material we're going to be producing, a traceability that nobody has. And it's a traceability that is the key now for the market. So that's really why we've entered this type of transaction, because it was the right opportunity for us to partner up with a expert in the back office of the blockchain operations, okay? That will allow us to focus on what is our strength, and our strength is our PureVap process that we're developing with Pyro and with Apollon, which will allow us to transform quartz, which is a low-value material, it's only worth 5 cents a kilogram, into solar cell that something sells at $51 a kilogram equivalent. And at the same time, the people that would be buying our solar cells will be able to have a certificate that tells them how green the process is. Nobody else in the industry is doing this right now.
Now, I want to ask you about that actually in a second, but first you talked about monetization there. So let's talk about the monetization aspect and why that's important.
Well, governments are dictating all over the world that the carbon that you produce during a process, all right, you have to pay for it. Either as an equivalent of a GST, let's say somebody takes my materials and uses something else. So the cost is accrued till the end buyer, the retail guy that buys it.
Right.
That's the concept. If our process is significantly less or produces no carbon emission, then we gain what are known as carbon credit. Those carbon credits have a value. They're not easy to monetize, but they have a value. And that's a value that's going to keep going up with time. As more and more industry that are polluting will need those carbon credits.
Right.
Another reason why I'm interested in developing the blockchain idea is that conceptually for people, solar energy is a green industry. But it has a dirty little secret. You cannot know at this moment when you're actually being green, which makes it very difficult for people to have solar parks or solar cells on their house for their electric car to be able to benefit from the solar.
But aren't you being green on the very first day? I put up solar cells on my house, or I drive my Tesla and I'm green?
No, you're not.
Okay.
And right now,
go further to that. Explain why.
Huh?
Go further. Tell us why.
Well, the simple truth of the matter is right now, on average, if you install a solar system on your house for the first 6 years of that solar system, okay, the CO2 reduction not needed to generate the electricity will only be needed to offset all the CO2s that was used to create that material. So the reality is, if you install yourself a solar system for the first 6 years, you're as green as having a diesel generator to produce electricity. After that, you're cool. But the reality is, you have a diesel generator for 6 years. Our process, our internal numbers tells us that, within less than a year, and even if we pull off a few of the things we're working on with Pyro, much less than that, you will be green instantly.
Does that explain why nobody else in business is doing this? Because it makes complete sense. You want to trace the product. You want visibility. So you want traceability in the production side. You want visibility with respect to where the solar cells are being used and how much green energy they're producing. And then you want to monetize. So that makes complete sense, right? Does that explain why nobody else in solar business is doing this right now? Or are they almost afraid to do it because they'd have to show that the production side is so dirty, for lack of a better word?
As simple as that. I was at Vegas at the solar show, and I saw one of the big solar manufacturer, and I asked the people how many years it takes to offset. And at the end, they have to go get a manager in the back to get me the answer. It says 5 to 6 years, but it's good for 25 years, so it's really good. Okay. Over the lifetime of the system, yes, it's actually green, but the short-term cost that we have to pay right now for CO2 emission is extremely high. The best way to deal with that issue is to make it visible, transparent, traceable. Don't kid yourself. Within a few years, this will become the mandatory and the standards. I've been told by my friends at Apollon Solar that in Europe right now, you cannot install a solar park unless you do these types of calculation. Now, right now, these type of calculations are manual. It says, okay, where did I buy those solar cells? What's the process? What's it? And then you got to come up with a massive paperwork, how Frenchmen or bureaucrats could be, massive amount of documentation to say, hey, this solar park, I need this. And here's the binder to prove it. Okay? So I'm eliminating the binder and making it digital, and it will follow the buyers.
And not to disparage the industry, but if you explain it like that, is it safe to assume that there's got to be some fraud or mathematical, errors along the way? Because, people need, at the end of the day, you talk about corporations, they need to bring numbers down. And if they've got, heavy carbon footprint, as they're playing with the numbers out there that, your blockchain solution solves 100%?
Well, it will make it harder to hide. What happens is people use what's known as countries of, false countries of origin. Let's say a country of origin is, and because a lot of it is made out of estimation, so the CO2 footprint works per country in a certain way. So you create a dummy company in one country that has a low CO2, you import the Chinese one, which are usually the highest amount of pollution there, and then you basically name them. Same thing as in steel and everything else, so to get around tariffs. So yes, that's the way it's being done right now. And the industry is justifying it by saying the life cycle over big pictures is green. But I know that given a choice, a buyer, an end buyer, will prefer traceability over guessability.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because the question I have here is, what does this mean for your customer and for your potential customers at the end of the day? Because I've got to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that if I'm a customer, if I'm a potential customer and your solar cells, I can see traceability, I can see the 75. You're saying 75% reduction in carbon during the production process, and if I can actually install it and then be able to tell the world exactly how much green energy I produced, it has to be that the end customer is more likely to buy your product. But B, does it also mean you can sell for a higher price because you're producing a much greener product that is therefore generating more money for them or saving them more money, and therefore you even have a higher selling price?
I'm not looking at a higher selling price. I'm just looking at driving more demand for my product. Okay. If I can get regular market price, see, the advantage that we have is everything tells us that we will be the low cost producer. Okay, if we succeed what we do. But if we're the low cost producer and the green producer, then we're sort of in the leadership position producer. And that's what we're aiming for, and that's why we've always followed the same business model that we started with the quartz in the solar grade silicon metal with Pyro, is we partner up with leaders, okay, and they have their specific field of expertise. Mine is sort of like to manage all of these groups together, have not the vision but the implementation, because having a good idea is easy. It's implementing it's a pain in the butt, and it's difficult. And that's where most projects screws up. And we're following through on the implementation. The carbon situation is not new. If somebody says that they're completely surprised we're talking about carbon, they completely missed the story, because we started to talk about it in 2016. I'm not afraid of competitors figuring out that it's dirty. Everybody knows it's dirty. Everybody in the industry does. If you do a little bit of research on the internet, you'll figure it out. It's just, since there is no solution, okay?
Yeah, people continue to hide behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Whereas you're kind of busting this out to the open.
Well, how can I say, it's one of my marketing advantages that I have. So I might as well use it to the max. And I get a strong feeling that millennials want to install on their houses their own system for generating their own electricity. And for them to be able to have fundamentally an app somewhere that's going to tell them, how much better they are doing for the world is going to make them happy. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's sort of the vision. It's down the line. Fundamentally, what we're doing now is traceability. We're going to focus on our process. And we designed a transaction in such a way that it doesn't differentiate, it doesn't change our focus. It actually increases our focus toward that.
And I guess that kind of dovetails into my next question, which is very important to you from the beginning. You could have sold the quartz, raw quartz, at X per ton, $50 per ton or something like that, and that would be the lowest value, obviously, you could gain for shareholders. Then you moved up to change the quartz into processing the quartz and converting it to silicon metal, and then solar grade silicon metal. And now you're moving up to solar cells. So it seems like every time we think you've reached the vertical limit, you reach another one. Is this the ultimate peak of your vertical integration, from the quartz in the rock and from the quartz in the ground to a marketplace for solar cells and carbon footprints?
Nope.
Okay.
That's not the answer you were expecting it.
You care to elaborate on that, or is that something that we can't?
It's not a question of caring or not caring to elaborate. There is continuation of potential vertical integration. After you've done the solar cell, you assemble the solar panel, okay? And then you move that way. Silicone is used in many things. It's also one of the new demands that's coming out is in the battery fields. So that could be another. Energy storage fits well with silicon, with solar cells.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is you reached the end of the vertical integration on the solar sides, because I don't.
There's actually some that could go higher.
Man, okay, that's unbelievable, because I'm trying to. I can't visualize that.
Well,
but you're also hinting at going off into different verticals at the same time, just starting a new vertical. And
no, I'm still in the solar.
Like a Cheshire cat right now.
Yeah, but no, it's not. It's, if you think about it, okay. Solar cells are in the energy field where they generate electricity. All right. The ultimate vertical integration is the energy manufacturing. Will we go there? Don't know. But you ask me, is there more room? My answer is yes.
Bernard, normally I got to tell you, I would call out people, client or not, for making that kind of a reach and maybe insinuations to more verticals or deeper vertical into solar. But the fact of the matter is, it's irrefutable that you've already taken the company this far from just quartz in the ground to where you are now. Mm-hmm. And you've done it with Pyrogenesis as your partner by your side. And now Apollon Solar has come to you. So the fact of the matter is, when you say something like that, and I'm looking forward to, like I'm sure everybody at home is looking forward to hearing more about those things in the future. But in the meantime, you get the credibility for that. So let's move on to the last question, which is, the vision is now set. Mm-hmm. You've got the solar vertical integration pretty much done, with the potential, like you said, maybe even a little further, but it's incredible integration right now. How is execution looking as far as the rest of 2018? Are you happy with the progress? Where are you at? And where are you going to be at the end of 2018, or at least, in the next, 9 to 12 months?
I am personally extremely happy with the results. I think Pyro is extremely happy too with the results. Peter issued a very long, didn't have any obligation to do that, very long explanation that covered almost all the subject. Operationally speaking, it's going very, very well. It's an R&D project. Once we've issued that the process is operating well, our next one that we're going to do is going to be at the end of this phase of basically pilot plan testing is going to be over. Then we're going to come up with a conclusion like we did with Gen 1. Like we finished with Gen 1, we came up to a conclusion that says, okay, the process works. We know if we can reach commercial scalability, we should be able to get pretty darn close to 5N just with the carbothermic process of it. We've built the Gen 2 to reduce the risk. Fundamentally, that's all. Everything we've done is designed to reduce the risk. So when we will start up the Gen 3, the pilot plant, we'll know what to expect with the machine. So there's a lot of tests which are basically parameters testing, pushing the boundaries, moving forward. Those are not things really to announce. The end report is going to be exciting to announce because, we've produced some things and I know other things that are moving forward and I know those results, but until we have a report, I have nothing really to say. So there's absolutely nothing in the testing that leads us to believe that we will not attain our operational goal. All right? There's nothing in our testing that doesn't make us believe that we will not be able to produce easily on a daily basis 20 kilogram of silicon metal, solar grade silicon metal with the Gen 2. We won't do that with the first bloody test. Okay, it's going to be like anything else. There's time to scale up, test everything, get everything moving forward. But we've actually gone through the process with the Gen 2 enough to know where it is. The pilot plant was enough into the really final design phase that whatever we learned from that was able to be incorporated. I've had a lot of presentation. They're really impressive. I can tell you, the member of the technical committee of the company that saw those presentations were very well impressed about what we're doing. We're definitely on target. It's one of those situations where the project, the execution, the implementation is working well. Now there's a dichotomy when you're managing a R&D company that happens to be public at the same time. There's a stock market pricing, and there's the reality of where the project is. Sometimes it goes above, sometimes it goes below. Most of the time it's below. That's just the way it is. And there's even a chart for this type of innovative process, and it's actually called the drought of despair. It's just about when it's going to turn around. And that's fundamentally where we are. The project is working. We feel extremely comfortable. Pyro came out and issued a very strong statement on that.
Yep. Third-party validation.
Third-party validation. Apollon feels very strongly we're in the right direction. Everybody feels very strongly. I will say this, ever since the PDA, we are starting to get interest from either upstream producers that like to be downstream and work with us, downstream producers that comes along with us, investors in different areas that are looking at exclusive right of using the pure VAP. Not that it's something that we're looking at. So, you know, as I said, I think at one point,
the industry is noticing. The point is the industry is noticing very strongly.
The industry is starting to notice it, but I'm not that much in a rush to get them overly to notice. I will say this. I was speaking to guys at the PDAC, and they mentioned, oh, in our laboratories, we have no problem making 3N-Si. And I looked at him, can you do it with 98.1 SiO2? He says, no. He just walked away. And he actually now sent us an email. He wants to talk with us about what we're doing.
That's powerful. Yeah, doesn't surprise me, buddy. So, you know, that's a great way to end off the interview as to what the status of things are. And you can see in your face, it's that quiet confidence. And you can see it in the updates put up by Peter Pascali. And I've got to say, this is me just talking now to everyone who's watching, that, you know, the blockchain news is just further, actually not even further, I think it's unequivocal proof of how confident you and the partners feel about what you're going to be able to do with respect to the, you know, reducing the carbon footprint, the energy footprint, and the elimination of all the toxic chemicals, because that's the ultimate transparency. And if you're willing to announce that and move forward with that, that says a lot for me. That's where you got to read between the lines. So Bernard, congratulations on the latest update and the latest milestone here. And looking forward, obviously, there's something in the wind from the way you're talking. I won't twist your arm, but we want to hear about that. And hopefully it's something we're going to hear about shortly. And I guess you can't really say anything about that. Shortly, a couple of months, but
timing-wise, I don't make any prediction.
Okay, I've tried, right? At least you gotta give me credit for trying. You gotta give me credit for trying.
No, I give you credit for trying, but I'm just reminding people I don't give timelines anymore.
All right. You've been watching Bernard Tourillon. He's Chairman and CEO at HPQ Silicon Resources. Company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol HPQ, and for our friends in Germany on Frankfurt under UGE. You've heard everything you need to hear. If you're already a shareholder of the company, you've got to be happy. If you're a prospective shareholder, you've got to be happy. But go do your due diligence. Get to Agoracom. I'm punching the company's name, stock symbol. Do your due diligence. Everything is there. The profile, the webcast, everything that you need to know. And then use a CO verified discussion forum to actually speak with Bernard. Bernard is speaking with his investors online on Agoracom. That kind of access, that kind of transparency just builds on what I said earlier. That's confidence, because no one's going to put themselves out there unless they feel confident. So thanks for joining us, Bernard. Thanks for joining us, my friend. Have a great day.
You too.
We'll see you all soon.